We're talking President Trump and his 2020 campaign manager, Brad Parscale. He spent time highlighting one of the president's least covered accomplishments, tweeting, quote, "1 out of 8 circuit court judges in America have been appointed by Donald Trump. He is changing the courts and reestablishing the rule of law for generations to come." Darn right, he is changing the courts. Brad Parscale is right about that. President Trump is altering the rule of law for decades to come. This story is not undercovered here. Turn up the volume. Let's take a look at how the president has reshaped the justice system. According to the U.S. courts, President Trump has appointed 38 judges to the federal bench. The majority of them serve on the Court of Appeals. And there are 80 nominees who are awaiting confirmation by Congress. But according to the there are 148 vacancies throughout the Court of Appeals, district courts, international trade court, and federal claims court. And there are 21 more vacancies expected through the end of 2018, which means there will be that many more opportunities for President Trump to pack the courts with like-minded judges.
Okay, so with us now, NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams. Pete, this is a very, very big deal. It is something that sometimes we don't pick up on as much, but at every single rally the president has, he brings up his court appointees. And to many of the members of his base who are mostly concerned with abortion issues or gun control issues or school prayer, things like that, this is crucially important.
It is, for a couple of reasons. One of the most notable is that most cases don't go to the U.S. Supreme Court. The bulk of these cases are decided by the district courts or the courts of appeal. Remember that the Supreme Court every year only hears and decides about 80 cases. So that just tells you that most of these cases are disposed of by the lower courts. And the Republicans, it turns out, are just better at this than the Democrats are. They have more of a stable of potential nominees that they're ready to move on quickly. Secondly, you think about President Obama, surprisingly, given his legal background, he was very slow to get his nominees nominated at all, his choices nominated. The second factor for Trump's success is the Senate. They're moving very rapidly. Judicial confirmations have become a priority on the floor under Mitch McConnell, moving ahead of legislation. They go to the head of the class all the time. The Senate has largely begun to ignore the so-called blue slip practice that allowed home state senators to object to presidential nominees from their states. They haven't been such a big deal in the circuit courts on the view that the circuit courts decide cases from many states and not just the home states of senators. So that's a factor as well. And then, of course, the doing away with filibuster. So
let me ask you this. Is Trump moving on this faster because he has more appointees available than Obama did, or was this just not a priority for the Obama administration, or was it more difficult for the Obama administration to get these judges confirmed?
Yes to all three. The Republicans, because largely of the Federalist Society, they're just more disciplined about that. This is certainly, to some extent, a White House and Justice Department operation, but that's true in any administration. When the Republicans are in charge, they have the Federalist Society and a sort of a well-disciplined process at their back, and they just move more quickly on this. Secondly, you have the fact that the Republicans are moving it more quickly. Remember, when Barack Obama, in his first, 6 years in office, he had a Democratic majority in the Senate. But the Republicans have just decided, as you say, this is a bigger deal, and they're more disciplined about it, and they're just moving faster. They're just doing it more efficiently.
Right. Now, you may have noticed that I have not yet included Donald Trump in our coverage of the Republican presidential campaign this season, and that is because he is obviously never going to be president. He is obviously never going to be the Republican nominee for president, and he is obviously never going to be a candidate for president.
Donald Trump is the